Reagan got elected in 1980. And he started building all these weapons that were seriously going to fuck with Russia, and we were seriously more advanced technologically, as it has been proven, than the Russians were. And by 1986, they realized that there was no way that they could defeat the United States. That the United States was too strong, too tough. Reagan was just too far right-wing. They were surrounding them with missiles that there's nothing they could do about it. So they decided to do a classic chess move called a gambit. And that's where you make a false move, a move that tells your opponent you're weak, so that he lets down his guard. And so they did a gambit. They did perestroika with Gorbachev, and the so-called Cold War went away, and everything went back to normal. The same people that started the Russian Revolution took over the factories as private corporations, and nothing changed. KGB just changed its name. The United States opened up its immigration policy. So did Israel. They let in tons and tons of Jews that wanted to get out of Russia. They came into Israel. They came into the United States, and a lot of them were KGB, so they had intelligence background. So they got into Mossad and the CIA, but the whole time they're still working for the USSR, and they never went away. They brought in all these mobsters who took over every mob in the entire country. The Russian mob now runs the entire country. They're also working for the USSR. Putin is former KGB, because the KGB is the one that's behind the whole thing. They have infiltrated all of our intelligence agencies. They've infiltrated all of our businesses. They've sold all our jobs overseas in order to bankrupt us. And now China, who's their partner in this devil deal, is buying up the United States, and Obama is their agent, and he is here to bring down the entire United States and bring us into the fold of a world socialist state put together by Russia and China. And that's what's really going on. So you're going to see the debt they're raising, the $180 million an hour that we're borrowing, the $30 million a minute that we're borrowing. All this is from China. We're giving everything we have over. They're going to come call their debt, and they need a place for their billions of people to move. And they really don't like us. In fact, they think we're a bunch of shitheads. They think that they have a historical link to the United States and to the entire Western Hemisphere, because the Indians were of Asian descent. And so they believe that it was China that originally conquered this, and that we, the white Europeans, took it from China, and it's their right to take it back. That's what's going on. And you watch, you bear my words, it will go this way. That's all I got to say.
How long will it take?
It's going to happen really soon, because they want the race riots. They want it all. They want it all to come down. They want to bring it down. They want no jobs. They want no production. They want everybody to be begging for mercy so that they can come in as the great savior and bring it in. And they're going to come in and they're going to decimate us. We're going to be put in concentration camps and re-education camps, and everybody's going to have to fall in line. That's why they're doing the student loans. They want students are people who protest. They want the students to owe the government so that they won't protest against the government. They're setting the whole thing up. That's why the blacks are being set up. The blacks are going to be the first ones decimated, and Obama's the Pied Piper leading them to their own destruction. And it's just really disturbing, and no one sees it. And we've been outsmarted. We're a country of poker players, and they're a country of chess players. And the poker player can never play a long-term strategy, because poker is strictly short-term strategy. Chess is a long-term strategy, and we are getting our fucking asses kicked in. And we deserve it. That's all I gotta say.
Is there anything we can do?
Rebel!
In what way? How?
Fuck, I don't know. Refuse the system. Refuse to use the system. Refuse it. It's all the same guys. They're funding it all. They funded the Russian Revolution. They funded the Chinese Revolution. They're funding Obama. They're funding everything. It's the same bankers. It's the same guys. And nobody knows it. It's perfect. And they're bringing this country down. And they're bringing this country down because they falsely believe that socialism did not work because the United States was there. If the United States had not been there, then the world socialist state, the wonderful, just wonderful place this world would be, if only the United States wasn't constantly confounding them. And so now they're going to get their wish. The one thing that could stop world dictatorship, the greatest country on earth, despite all its horrible flaws, is about to go down in smoke, and it's their fault. And all I can say is, may the followers of Ayn Rand rise up, because this is the last gasp for freedom.
Yo, I haven't did a video in so fucking long. I haven't did a podcast in a while. Go Deep, episode 206, because we ain't no bitch. And your mother has an itch. I'm pretty sure she probably told you about that already, but we're going to take care of it. On episode 206, today we're going to talk about some shit. I haven't made the intro yet, and I haven't picked out a song yet. But since we haven't done a Go Deep in a while, I'm just going to catch you up real quick about what's going on. Today we are tweeting Restore the Snyderverse. It is already trending. We're going to try to get 100K. Maybe we got 100K by the time you hear this shit. Maybe we didn't. Either or, it was still a good day. We had fun. Also, if you saw YouTube got hacked. When YouTube got hacked and they restored, they knocked out all old or accounts that really don't do shit. Got taken off my subscriber list. So if you look, my shit went from like 1,900 to 1,200 over fucking night. So basically all y'all gotta do is subscribe back to my shit. Because there's a few of y'all listening that's probably been unsubscribed. But just subscribe back to that shit. Get my shit back to where it's supposed to be. We going to listen to some Go Deep episode 206 real quick. Hit the like button. Let's listen to some music. I'll play something real quick. Be right back.
Tempted by the sins of life, the pleasures of lust, the wild imaginings that you can't discuss. Oh, the flesh is weak, it's a struggle for peace. It's a daily conflict between man and beast. We strive for God and a better tomorrow, still suffering from the unforgettable sorrow. Repent from thy sins, son, and walk ye straight. Stop talking all that trash, boy, and walk ye straight. Inflicted by the pressures of life at every vital point. Still, I wouldn't give a oint, or flinch an inch, or pinch a pinch off the pie, or ever try your winch. Confronted by the devil himself and stay strong. You think you could take the king, that meet calm. Strong as the base of a mountain, there's no counting how many MCs have sprung from my fountain. 50,000-year process to make this combination. I'm not giving mine away to Satan, although I know that he's awaiting to get a hold of my biochemical equation. I'ma slip him, son, I'ma dip him, son. When I cast a drop on him, I'ma clip him, son. 50,000-year process to make this combination. 99 elements, biochemical manifestation. I'm not giving mine away to Satan, although I know that he's awaiting. I'ma slip him, son, I'ma dip him, son. When I cast the drop on him, I'ma clip him, son.
For press use only, Baby Grand Records.
Bedrock, straight to the head with the pet rock. At least till I could get from out this booth, it's like a sweatbox. Trade a few bars ahead nodding, throw us a stack. Pay a minute, sold up like thread and bobbin bonus pack. Invest in the first B-boy kid show. Live off Skid Row with jive talking Negroes. He wear his beard like a frizzly haired grizzly and kept his appearances exquisitely rare. Where is he? Busy in your backyard or on your front porch, or standing in the corner of the club with the blunt torched. It's off. They say he rhymed like he's starving and sold odds and bodkins to old gods and goblins. Golly, a just a pest and your worst best friend who mend and rip space-time fabric like polyester blend. Not a hobby for no knobby, need lesser men or sloppy like the rest of them, then probably need estrogen.
Yo, drunk or sober, son, don't lose your composure. Slimmy off the ribby, mixed with Henny, Moet Dimmy, underneath the passenger seat. Son tuck the semi-Israeli issued automatic black pistol. The cop with the flashlight chewed gum as he whistled. Tapped on the glass, roll it down fast. License registration, address to your lab. Name and insurance, the reason why I pulled you over, cause the way you were swerving, sir, you can't be sober. Have you been drinking? Breathe into the breathalyzer. Get out the car, please. Follow this exercise, sir. Put one finger on your nose. Now from heel to toe, walk in a straight line 10 paces down the road. My homeboy Kato used to do the mashed potato with cartwheels and then spin out like a tornado. They used to chase him, right? But son, he will always shake him. They come and pump bowls and make beats inside my basement. Drunk or sober, never lose your composure. Stress on the brain cause pain and stomach ulcers. If you can't understand, then come closer. We civilize the uncivilized, and we supposed to. Drunk or sober, never lose your composure. Mic in your hand, black man stand as a soldier. Stress on the brain cause pain and stomach ulcers. If you can't understand, then come closer.
All right. I hope y'all like that song. Let's see. We get into this shit. This podcast is still pretty much about the shit going on these days. As you can see now, all of our warnings have come true. All the conspiracy theorists have been right. If you look at Go Deep and you've seen this shit since episode 1 all the way up here, if you've been riding with me this whole time, no homo. If you've been in the car riding, you know, back seat, I'm in the front seat driving, y'all in the back seat just listening to the show, right? None of that gay shit. But if you've been riding with this show since the start, you see I've always said some crazy shit, and I've probably tried to find somebody to back it up. And but a lot of times some of the shit we be saying, especially like conspiracy theorists, be looked at as outlandish and looked at as, damn dog, I don't know, and then just the word conspiracy theorist, we know that come from after the JFK assassination, and the CIA put out the term conspiracy theorist so it will make people not believe the theories about what happened to the president. That was what conspiracy theorists come from. But today, over the past 10 years, I would say, because in the 70s and the 80s, conspiracy theory was the shit. Everyone did it. All the fucking OGs was, looking at, like, not just occult information, but metaphysical information. Everybody was trying to build. Everybody was trying to just look at the world through the matrix on the other side, That's what everybody... But then that shit stopped. I remember about 10 years ago is when it became like the millennial kind of boom, when maybe before that, when Obama first came around, a little bit after him, and cancel culture started cranking up, but it started bubbling up on the internet where like millennials was just, oh, that fucking conspiracy theory shit, that shit dumb, blah, 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 blah. At the time, they were probably winning because it was becoming popular and everybody was brainwashed and loving Obama, so we were just following it up. and fucking watching Real Time with Bill Maher and thinking that's all the political news we need. Whatever he says in his little slanted gay ass way, we thought that's all we needed. But this shit right here, look at the growth of the people. So around that time, let's say even earlier than that, fucking 9/11 happened. Or, you know, you can even talk about JFK, but in our lifetime, most of the people listening to this remembers 9/11. None of the people listening to, not many of the people listening to this been alive since JFK. I have a little bit of demographics in those people, but not much. But fucking, we all witnessed 9/11. So when 9/11 happened, people were like, damn, you know, but it was like we had an attack on the country, right? But then instantly there was people saying, you know, the 9/11 truth movement. People saying different shit like, damn, dog, I don't think that happened. What they said happened, I don't think happened. And then that became like a big movement. And it never really got taken care of. People just got killed in that shit, you know. It was like people just got started getting silenced, and that movement broke up, and you know, it never became of anything in the court cases, the 9/11 truth movement, even though it's probably still going on right now, and I'm not shitting on them boys, but we haven't had any new breakthroughs in the 9/11 truth area. So then that movement got blown up. And there was another movement that showed up called Occupy Wall Street. Now, Occupy Wall Street, it seemed like they must have been the closest to the target, because Occupy Wall Street started getting their ass kicked. Like, I've never seen white people get beat up like that on TV. But they wasn't allowed to occupy Wall Street much at all, right? So they must have been close to the target because they got fucked up. So then, you know, Obama started doing the stimulus packages because they kept threatening that, you know, the country was going to close down. That was even a part. They stopped the Obama and McCain election and said, yo, the country's about to stop if we don't drop this big stimulus. All right, blah, blah, blah. So that's been going on since most of us can remember. But the times, we never really got into it. We never, looked at these bills. We never looked at the Patriot Act, what came from 9/11, which says, you know, an American citizen can be detained and nobody even know about it. And shit like that. You can spy on American citizens, which they use the shit with Trump, because they're saying, you know, they can act like you're a terrorist and spy on you, which should have been illegal. But we never looked at these bills at the time. We never looked at what these stimulus was going on. At the time, we just knew, oh, housing bubble, market crash, we need a stimulus or the country's going to stop. And all the politicians are selling it to us. But we never knew what the fuck they were paying for. We never knew any of this shit. We just knew it was some shit way above our head. Even remember in 9/11 on 9/10, September 10th, Donald Rumsfeld had a fucking hearing about what happened to $2.3 trillion. The next day, 9/11 happened. Nobody ever heard about the $2.3 trillion. Nobody ever figured, you know, I don't even know whatever. It never turned out to be nothing. So the shit just disappeared. But now we're giving that amount away because foreign countries are scaring us to death, and different states are reacting differently from it. So you have some blue states that was going to lock you the fuck down where you need money because, you know, you don't have any access to work or anything like that. You need the money. But some red states don't lock you down and give you a little bit more access. But then when most of the blue states do it, then it becomes like a federal mandate, you know. So now it's a big, you know, thing in the country where everybody needs the stimulus. But I'm maybe I'm getting far ahead of myself. But now we're starting to wake up and read these bills. We're starting to get involved. That's what I think was always what was needed. I think the people was always needed to get involved. So wherever you say now, Trump, you might love him or hate him, but Trump made people get involved. He was tweeting regular people shit. He's tweeting like a regular person. He's talking to people. He talks like a regular person. His sons talk like regular people on Twitter, you know? But now we're all involved. We want to know what's going on. If you look at that Georgia hearing yesterday on voter, I'm going to say beep, because if you even say voter beep, they're going to fucking shadow ban your YouTube account, which means y'all boys should subscribe again and again and again, because it just is what it is. This big tech war is going on crazy too. But it seemed like it's all, check this out. It's like the New World Order was being planned after JFK. That was like the start of that shit. We might say, the Twin Towers, and the Twin Towers was a part of it also. It was like the nail in the coffin. But JFK was like the beginning, because the New World Order is a different order of the world. It's like if America is the lone superpower, right? So the lone superpower means America can actually fight 2 wars at one time and win 2 wars at one time. And that we're the only country that says we can do that shit. No other country say they can do that. And that's what means they're not a superpower. But Chinese is going to try to become a superpower, and they will become a superpower with their technology, which became, data has become so valuable, and all this technology needs data because it's going to be the future. It's going to be tech with, connected to 5G satellite shit, 6G, 7G, all this, but it's going to be data streams. So it made China the fucking next big dog on the block. But they're still not fucking with America military-wise. So what they do is they have to, get us in a different way. They have to make us fight ourselves. They have to make us kind of like have a civil war. So our 2 wars that we would have to fight to become a superpower. Remember, I said to become a superpower, you have to have the ability to fight and win 2 wars at the same time. Right. So they want to give one of our wars to be a civil war. So we will break ourselves from the inside. Right. So then they would come and invade us. And that's usually how it happens, because they need this land. China, CCP needs this land because, China is going through a lot of shit right now with floods and weather problems and crop problems and all kind of shit. And they want America, and they actually think they own America because, they came over here as ancient Indian, Native Americans. They say they were Asian. So they think they own this shit, and they have came to get this shit back. So that is the New World Order, the new ordering of the world superpowers. So if America is 1, America is about to be 2, and China is about to be 1. But the problem about that is China doesn't have regulations on the new tech. So the new tech is going to be used where it's going to be, it can control your whole body. That's what people are scared about, this 5G shit and this shot shit, because the shots are nanotechnology. The nanotechnology is controlled by the satellites, 5th generation satellites. Everything now that's 5th generation is going to be controlled by an AI supercomputer. And that's including your human body. So China is a totalitarian government, which means they want the total control over everything. Remember, China was the one that said we're not going to have, at one time they said you can only have 1 kid, They control every fucking thing, and there's no regulation. So America has always been the one that stopped the people that try to control the world, whether it's Hitler, whether it's anything, but because America feels different than the whole world. We feel there's not going to be a ruler. There's going to be the people, but if the people, see, it's switched, it's double-edged sword, because if the people don't get involved, the rulers come take it, and they play like they're gonna, help the people there, but they're really not. They're still doing the communist way of life. They're still doing the ruler by authority way of life. But America has a way, if the people get involved, like we are now with these bills, and we're seeing shit, and we're chasing talking shit about these senators, everything. Now the people are getting involved. So now we can be a real America. We can be what we're supposed to be. We could be free because we read it. We're paying attention to what they're giving us. This is America. It's a government by consent. We have to agree to this shit. But if we never know what's going on, we're going to agree to the worst shit. But now we know what's going on. We're going to bring justice to the world because there's a totalitarian rule over this whole world. And America is the last one. As always, they're going to try to reorder our shit, but we're not going to go for it. I mean, I just think that's what's going to happen. But it's going to look like they're going to win out, but at the end, there is going to be justice. It's going to be American justice. This is what Justice League is all about. Big tech coming from the East to dominate the world with information from the dark side. It is what it is. We got to understand what the fuck they're talking about. So I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to put probably some white people, some scientists or whatever in here. And y'all gonna learn more about what I be talking about and what they're talking about. And then we're just gonna have a great show. So Go Deep 206. I'm stopped talking because your mama just texted me. She said she coming through so I can put some lotion on her. Go Deep 206. Yeah, bitch. Some white people shit on the way. Remember, subscribe so we can get my shit back to normal. Tell Big Tech.
In the 1980s, science fact and science fiction looked as though they may become one when the American President Ronald Reagan announced the Strategic Defense Initiative, or Star Wars, missile defense system. The program was designed to break the nuclear deadlock between the US and the Soviets and move beyond the threat of MAD, or mutually assured destruction. But did the nuclear physicist Edward Teller oversell the idea to Ronald Reagan and only tell him what he wanted to hear? Even as the world reacted to America's new defense plan, Teller's theories remained decades away from forming a working weapon. So how did just the threat of Star Wars change the world without it actually being put into action? By 1980, both the USA and the USSR had been stockpiling nuclear warheads for more than a quarter of a century, the Soviets having more than 30,000 and the US having over 20,000. The US stockpile had actually decreased since the mid-1960s, as new missiles were both more effective and more versatile. Nevertheless, the superpowers were more than capable of obliterating each other many times over. It was President Ronald Reagan's dislike of the MAD policy, which he called a suicide pact, that drove him and his advisors to seek a new defense strategy. Their solution had to effectively remove the threat of total annihilation, but also allow the holders of the technology, in this case the US, to use their weapons without fear of a devastating counterattack. Reagan had been searching for a new way forward for decades. In 1967, before he was elected the governor of California, he attended a lecture at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, in which the Hungarian-born scientist Edward Teller proposed using nuclear weapons to defend against a nuclear attack. Teller, known as the father of the H-bomb, was passionate about the capabilities of nuclear technology. His famous enthusiasm even made it onto the big screen as one of the sources for the ex-Nazi character in Stanley Kubrick's black comedy Dr. Strangelove. But it was Teller's ideas for harnessing the power of nuclear explosions that would capture Reagan's imagination and plant the idea for the Strategic Defense Initiative. During a visit to NORAD in 1979, Reagan was told that whilst the US could find and track individual missiles during an attack, they could do nothing about it. 2 years later, Reagan was elected as the American president and immediately set his advisor the task of devising a new concept. Initially, a proposal called High Frontier was suggested, a combination of ground-based ABMs or anti-ballistic missiles and a space-based laser system to shoot down the incoming Soviet ICBMs. But High Frontier needed big advances in technology from a research project at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. This project, codenamed Excalibur, aimed to channel a controlled nuclear detonation in low Earth orbit into a battery of expendable X-ray lasers. These lasers had to be powerful enough to destroy incoming missiles in mid-flight before the warheads separated. Although testing in the 1970s had been unsuccessful, on November 14, 1980, scientists detonated a 2-kiloton nuclear device in a kilometre-deep underground shaft at the Nevada test site. Project Excalibur scored a success and the X-ray laser showed promise. In the meeting where High Frontier was presented to Reagan, he reportedly lit up with enthusiasm on hearing the details. Decades earlier, the actor-turned-president had himself starred in a B-movie about an airborne laser weapon in the wartime film Murder in the Air. On March 23, 1983, President Reagan appeared before the world on television to announce the launch of the Strategic Defense Initiative. His speech made clear that the program aimed to be a technological game-changer. The Soviet reaction was outrage and condemnation. According to the thinking that had led both sides to build up stockpiles of offensive weapons, defensive initiatives were destabilizing as they threatened to shatter the existing balance of power. Reagan admitted as much in the words of his speech. This was a bold move and a gamble. The Star Wars program was announced at a time when the USSR was already in turmoil at the top. 3 Soviet leaders had died in less than 3 years: Leonid Brezhnev, Yuri Andropov, and Konstantin Chernenko. On hearing of Chernenko's death, Reagan reportedly remarked, "How am I supposed to get any place with the Russians if they keep dying on me?" On March the 11th, 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev became the Soviet leader, chosen as part of a new generation keen to revive a stagnant economy. Once in office, Gorbachev filled his cabinet with political allies who, like him, were reformers. The new Soviet administration inherited a raft of strained diplomatic situations, including a proxy war in Afghanistan and the US redeployment of medium-range missiles across Europe. In November 1983, Soviet representatives had walked out of arms control negotiations that year and only agreed to resume talks in 1984 if a treaty banning space weapons was on the agenda. Gorbachev came to the bargaining table at the Reykjavik, Iceland summit in 1986 with an offer to shrink the Soviet offensive nuclear arsenal in exchange for cancellation of the Star Wars program. To avoid a new arms race and save his economy, Gorbachev had to neutralize America's new technological initiative. Even as he tried to negotiate an end to the arms race, at home, the Soviet defense industry was milking the opportunity to pursue their most ambitious programs. Priority was given to Buran, the equivalent of NASA's space shuttle, and its launcher, the giant Energia rocket. This launch system was conceived as a way to loft a range of weapons that could neutralize the American SDI satellites, such as a carbon dioxide laser called SCIF. Like Buran, SCIF was symbolically important as it tested the idea that the Soviet Union could offer a symmetric response to Star Wars. Energia's first launch was scheduled to put SCIF into space on May 15, 1987 as part of the Polyus payload. Polyus was officially a science mission loaded with 10 experiments to carry out in the upper atmosphere. Gorbachev himself visited the Baikonur Cosmodrome before the launch to expressly forbid any deployment of a weapon that might be seen as an act of aggression by US surveillance. However, in the end, SCIF did even less than Gorbachev had expected. When the Energia rocket was launched and released Polyus, a software error caused the payload to rotate too far. Facing backwards, Polyus fired its engines, slowing to fall and break up in the atmosphere shortly afterwards. Although the Soviet space laser never made it into a stable orbit, Reagan had successfully bluffed his opponent into developing and testing a symmetric response to a phantom threat. As the Polyus crashed to Earth, a major review of the American technology found that the spaceborne X-ray laser still faced huge challenges and remained out of reach. However, by this time, the US had effectively outmaneuvered the Soviet Union, forcing them into an arms race they could not win. While the American economy enjoyed strong growth throughout the mid to late 1980s, Soviet productivity fell further and further behind. By 1989, the USSR was in a death spiral. Gorbachev's reforms had resulted in a domino effect. The policy of glasnost, or freedom of speech, had led to public criticism of the fathers of the Communist Party, destabilizing the state's legitimacy. Gorbachev's announcement of non-intervention in Eastern Europe resulted in Warsaw Pact countries holding democratic elections. Then, in 1991, the Baltic states ceded from the Soviet Union. In December of that year, Gorbachev resigned and officially dissolved the USSR, and the superpower that had kicked off the space race with Sputnik and had launched the first man into orbit was finished. So, as always, thanks for watching, but before I go, I'd just like to remind you that the Curious Droid merchandise store is now open, and the Curious Droid Facebook group, where you can suggest ideas for new videos, is also available. And finally, you can now translate any of the Curious Droid videos if you're a non-native English speaker with the community contributions, which we have a video on if you're unsure how to do it, in the uploaded videos. So, once again, thanks for watching, and please subscribe, rate, and share.
And this is a really important point. Those of you that understand what's really at stake, you need to be praying for the president, praying for his family, and praying for all of his advisors who are around him through all of these crises that are coming. The people that work there in the White House, that support the president day to day. Very serious dramas are taking place, and they will escalate, not lessen, over the next weeks and months. We need to stay strong, understand what's going on, not be hand-wringing and worrying about the outcome or how these people are going to win, because they're not going to win. But it is going to be steady at the wheel. You're going to be in a storm that you can't believe. It's going to be tossing and turning, and we're still firing those Volkswagens over and over and over and over and over. So relax, buckle up, be ready. Don't be a hand wringer. Don't let the other camp get you confused about where you're at. Don't let the mainstream media get you convinced that there actually is a constitutional crisis, because there really isn't a crisis. This has all been planned. This has all been mapped on supercomputers. The guys that are backing the president have been playing out every scenario over and over and over, multiple variations a day, since the very beginning of this presidency and beyond. And they have understood even the allowing of the impeachment to move forward and not forcing Wray to come forward over at the FBI and do a proper investigation timely, allowing that impeachment process to go forward. Imagine if they tried to pull the impeachment post-election, and then we had that as a drama, and everybody's hand-wringing, and the election, and all the foreign countries looking at our drama. We got that out of the way. We showed that nobody's getting impeached. You know, you can impeach him, but it doesn't mean that he's leaving office. So they impeached him. Well, they didn't get the Senate, so they don't have it. Not going to happen. And now we control the courts. Roberts can't control where we're going with the court, because we have a majority that outrides Roberts. So the long and short of it is, his vote's not going to matter. And as I think I said on your show, I certainly said somewhere else, I don't think Roberts is there in office 4 years from now, and probably sooner. So with that in mind, the direction of the country is going is going to be radically different than most people can even conceive. Your audience specifically needs to anticipate where it's really going and not listen to the siren song of the mainstream media and the pundits and everybody else, and understand that the reality is behind the scenes, this administration has been working tirelessly, anticipating this moment. The people that have been behind this president before he even announced have been working tirelessly, looking at all the options to anticipate them, to be prepared, to get these other people exposed out in the open and then off the playing field. Pieces on the chessboards being taken out of play by giving them a chance to be shown for what they are, and now they're no longer a threat. They're no longer valid. Their opinion doesn't matter because they were allowed to be in there, and it was neutralized. So we're actually in a pretty sound position moving forward. Everybody take a deep breath. Within this audience, there should be no question that we're doing fine. We're the ones firing the salvos. We're not on the receiving side. Even if you feel the ground shake around you, it's targeted near you, but it's not you that's being targeted. Just stay out of the way. Don't go close to it. I had somebody that I talked to this morning that every person in this audience would know the name, every person. And they said, I'm thinking about running as a Democrat in my location, which is totally Democrat, just to be a spy on the inside and do whatever. I says, you don't want guilt by association with that. I understand the ideal. I understand the idea. But the reality is you don't even want to touch that with a 1,000-foot pole, because the guilt by association is such. And I mentioned taking the bumper sticker off the car right here. There's a person that's in there that's been there all their life, and they're taking the bumper sticker off their car with a razor blade. You don't even want to go there. If you want to do something else, you want to do it as an independent, you want to make a difference somehow else, that's fine. I get that. But I wouldn't want guilt by association, because this is where that's going right now. It's going to be epic. And your audience needs to begin to understand what's in play and be able to talk to the people around them so that they aren't in a fearful mode as these dramas unfold. And they're going to be epic dramas. And understand that at the end of the day, it's going to be great. We're going to take the country back. We're going to reindustrialize the country. We're going to put the country back on track. Be part of it. Have some fun. Take a deep breath, and let's get the monsters.
Absolutely.
What has been allowed to happen, what's been happening, as though we didn't see it, as though the people in this administration didn't see it. The president has consolidated power. It took 4 years to get to this point. It's not perfect yet, but it's being perfected. And a lot of these enemies are going to be exposed decisively. And not just the American people, but the world are going to get a chance to pick a lane. In Canada, they're going to see the criminality going on in their government right beside us. And they will get a chance to make choices where they want to align themselves, here or back over there in England, and that crowd that's controlling them from afar. Down in Mexico, same thing. You want to work with us, shoulder up with us, try and sort things out through the Americas and North America, our alignments. They're going to go through a presidential election process starting next year. Who's going to win that? Who's going to shoulder up with us here in America to get stable here at home and then be available to help out through the rest of the world? We're fixing our own affairs here at home, pulling our own people in, and getting ready to, if we have to engage kinetically with China, engage them kinetically. You know, we took F-117s out of storage.
Yep.
That were retired, and we've got them up and operational, and those people are flying them around, getting up to speed, ready to go. All those units are coming online. We have stuff they don't even know that we've got put away. They think they got their hypersonic missiles and they're threatening us. We got stuff they didn't even have in their game plan figured out, that our guys were sifting stuff over to them so they could operate. Well, maybe they got a few surprises that they haven't dialed in yet. They think they're going to get away with something with us. Not happening. So everybody take a deep breath. Get in the right place mentally, knowing that these barrage, these ground thumpers that you're going to feel shortly. It's not the end of the world. They're not targeted at you. And ultimately, we're going to get through this. And this is working to our advantage. Imagine what it's like to be on the receiving end for real. I don't wish that on anybody, but they're about to get it, and they deserve it, by the way. So anyway, that's what I got for you, V. I'm sure there's more we could talk about, but I don't want to, go too long for your audience.
Spoke several times before about ideological subversion. That is a phrase that I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand. When the Soviets used the phrase ideological subversion, what do they mean by it?
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all American mass media has to do, is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. There is no mystery. There is nothing to do with espionage. I know that espionage intelligence gathering looks more romantic. It sells more deodorants through the advertising, probably. That's why your Hollywood producers are so crazy about James Bond type of thrillers. But in reality, the main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their mind, even if you expose them to authentic information, even if you prove that white is white and black is black, you still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible. To get rid society of these people, you need another 20 or 15 years to educate a new generation of patriotically minded and common sense people who would be acting in favor and in the interests of the United States society.
And yet these people who've been programmed and, as you say, in place and
Yes.
who are favorable to an opening with the Soviet concept, these are the very people who would be marked for extermination in this country?
Most of them, yes. Simply because the psychological shock when they will see in future what the beautiful society of equality and social justice means in practice, obviously they will revolt. They will be very unhappy, frustrated people. And the Marxist-Leninist regime does not tolerate these people. Obviously they will join the links of dissenters, dissidents. Unlike in present United States, there will be no place for dissent in future Marxist-Leninist America. Here you can get popular like Daniel Ellsberg and filthy rich like Jane Fonda for being dissident, for criticizing your Pentagon. In future, these people will be simply squashed like cockroaches. Nobody is going to pay them nothing for their beautiful, noble ideas of equality. This they don't understand, and it will be greatest shock for them, of course. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years. Actually, it's overfulfilled, because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes his, then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. So basically America is stuck with demoralization, and unless, even if you start right now, here, this minute, you start educating new generation of Americans, it will still take you 15 to 20 years to turn the tide of ideological perception of reality back to normalcy and patriotism. The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation, what matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world, that the process will go that fast. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, "Now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized." This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C., with benevolent dictators like Walter Mondale, who will promise lots of things, never mind whether the promises are fulfillable or not. He will go to Moscow to kiss the bottoms of new generation of Soviet assassins. Never mind. He will create false illusions that the situation is under control. Situation is not under control. Situation is disgustingly out of control. Most of the American politicians, media, and educational system trains another generation of people who think they are living at a peacetime. False. The United States is in the state of war, undeclared total war against the basic principles and the foundations of this system. And the initiator of this war is not Comrade Andropov, of course. It's the system. However ridiculous it may sound, the world communist system, or the world communist conspiracy, whether I scare some people or not, I don't give a hoot. If you are not scared by now, nothing can scare you. But you don't have to be paranoid about it. What actually happens now, that unlike myself, you have literally several years to live on unless the United States wake up. The time bomb is ticking. With every second, the disaster is coming closer and closer. Unlike myself, you will have nowhere to defect to, unless you want to live in Antarctica with penguins. This is it. This is the last country of freedom and possibility.
Okay, so what do we do? What is your recommendation to the American people?
Well, the immediate thing that comes to my mind is, of course, there must be a very strong national effort to educate people in the spirit of real patriotism, number one. Number two, to explain them the real danger of socialist, communist, whatever, welfare state, big brother government. If people will fail to grasp the impending danger of that development, nothing ever can help United States. You may kiss goodbye to your freedom, including freedoms to homosexuals, to prison inmate. All this freedom will vanish, evaporate in 5 seconds, including your precious lives. The second thing, the moment at least part of United States population is convinced that the danger is real, they have to force their government. And I'm not talking about sending letters, signing petitions, and all this beautiful, noble activity. I'm talking about forcing United States government to stop aiding communism. Because there is no other problem more burning and urgent than to stop the Soviet military-industrial complex from destroying whatever is left of the free world. And it is very easy to do. No credits, no technology, no money, no political or diplomatic recognition, and of course no such idiocy as grain deals to USSR. The Soviet people, 270 millions of Soviets, will be eternally thankful to you if you stop aiding a bunch of murderers who sit now in Kremlin and whom President Reagan respectfully calls government. They do not govern anything, least of all such complexity as the Soviet economy. So two very simple, maybe too simplistic answers or solutions, but nevertheless they are the only solutions. Educate yourself, understand what's going on around you. You are not living at the time of peace. You are in a state of war, and you have precious little time to save yourself. You don't have much time, especially if you are talking about young generation. There's not much time left for convulsions to the beautiful disco music. Very soon it will go, just overnight. If we are talking about capitalists or wealthy businessmen, I think they are selling the rope on which they will hang very soon. If they don't stop, if they cannot curb their unsettled desire for profit, and if they keep on trading with the monster of the Soviet communism, they are going to hang very soon. And they will pray to be killed, but unfortunately they will be sent to Alaska probably to manage industry of slaves. It's simplistic. I know it sounds unpleasant. I know Americans don't like to listen to things which are unpleasant. But I have defected not to tell you the stories about such idiocy as microfilm, James Bond type espionage. This is garbage. You don't need any espionage anymore. I have come to talk about survival. It's a question of survival of this system. You may ask me, what is it in for me? Survival, obviously, because as I said, I am now in your boat. If we sing together, we'll sing beautifully together. There is no other place on this planet to defect to.